Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome. Here we are. We're back. Had a little bit of a time away last week. Been so busy with getting prepared for 2025. So many new launches, so much new material coming down the pipe. We're very excited about
Exciting
all of
year.
that. Hi, Tarot by Lupo.
Hello, welcome.
So
Thank you for joining us.
apologies for not being here last week. Also, I want to let you all know that I've pre-recorded the overview forecast for 2025, and we're going to put that up later on today. So yeah, that'll be great.
Let me just assist that girl there.
Hi, Susan. Hi, Linda.
Hello,
welcome. So greetings from Sweden. See you all.
Nice to see Amazeball, freedom fighters and soul community. Beautiful. Thank you. Likewise, Susan.
Likewise, everyone. So we thought we'd start off today just having a quick look at New Zealand. Hello, lovely to see you. Having a quick look at this full moon energy of this particular week. It's just a couple of days past at the moment. And what I know about that while Crystal is shuffling is that we are looking at the full moon in the sign of Cancer, which is a lot about, when we think of the sign of Cancer, it's about our home. It's about our physical home and our what feels like home. What is a sanctuary for us? They're alive. The cards are jumping. And sanctuary and home, the people that are closest to us, whether it's our biological family of choice, and then finally our relationships with the first home that we ever had, which was in the womb of our mother. So there's a lot that we come back into almost like our oldest memories of what arriving on planet Earth felt like. So there's something really coming to home base at this time of year. Hi, Angela. Hi, Frederick. Lovely to see you all.
Colleen.
So let's start off by having a quick peek at what we want to look at specifically for 2025 with regards to this energy around the fullness of, I want to say almost like full circle with home nurturing. Aw, beautiful. Here, let's put those bigger. This one, I think. There we go.
Beautiful.
Yeah. The sun and the Ace of Swords.
Wow.
It's a homecoming. This is a homecoming in in another. Wow, look at all the major arcana cards here. You might need to squeeze them in here. I'm just going to go like this.
I'm just going to do it. Come in there.
There we go. So we've got the Magician, the Hermit, the Nine of Pentacles, 2 9s, 3 9s.
Wow.
Ooh,
interesting.
Wow is right. So look at us. We are so bright. And what do we need to know about homecoming? What do we need to know about sanctuary, about being at home on the planet, about our relationship with Divine Mother? And that feeling of sanctuary. So this is really a call to arms. The Ace of Swords is like, get clear, make a declaration. See, another clarity card with that Magician in the past. So clear declarations about claiming your sovereignty as a citizen of planet Earth, a sovereign being that has a birthright to claim, here is your home. Here is your home. And we have in the present one of the 9s. So we've got 3 9s here. The Hermit is the number 9 major card, 9 of Swords and 9 of Pentacles. So when you have 3 of a kind, what is it? A blessing.
A blessing.
A blessing. So,
harmony.
So the blessing is around the synthesis. The nines are about gathering all the loose ends, tying up the loose ends. And the homecoming is sovereignty, is what I'm getting here. So look at this, though. This is our advice. What do you make of that, Crystal?
I would say to really surrender the mind, because there's going to be a lot that's going to be potentially coming at us in terms of how we should be thinking, the fear mongering that comes at us, and really being careful to just allow that mind to quiet and not take too much of what's coming at us as truth, and really allow ourselves to go inward, find our own yes, find our own inner light, find our own truth. And really, like, as Mom says, the stepping into the sovereignty piece is really like, what is my own sovereign way of thinking? What are my yeses in this? And what really, we're really tuning in with our intuition here, and surrendering, letting go, like the nines and the tens being that completion, letting go of all that we thought things could be, all the ways, the little bits that we've been attached to, starting to surrender some of that, and allowing the mind to rest and be led by a more true internal knowing.
Definitely. It looks like this is when the going gets tough, the tough get going kind of metaphor. And this is really like never before. It's sort of like the dark forces are throwing the book at us right now.
Yeah.
Like 9 of Swords, 10 of Swords. I have to tell you all a little disclosure, but I did a reading for myself for the year, and it was a little startling because there's some really heavy stuff for me this year. And we were like kind of looking, is it personal? Is it global? Is it, fortunately, it felt like it was more almost existential in terms of like having to really work with the dark force energy and navigate through some very dark territory this year. And I know many of us are in that place, right? It's like it's the discernment. This is also a discernment card. So there's something about setting the tone this week, this month, today, around claiming your birthright. Something about taking us back, because the sun is kind of like a birthing. It's like a rebirth card. And clearing like all the ways that we're getting told that we're not good enough to be here. Humanity is wrecking the planet. We don't deserve to be recipients of all the bounty and beauty of nature. We're intrinsically flawed, and therefore we're doing more harm than good here. Obviously, we are in over our heads in a lot of ways, or out of our heads. But does that mean that we as beings, as authentic, integral, aligned beings, are not beautifully aligned to bring this planet not only back into harmony and, repair some of the damage, but actually exalt it? So it's not just about us claiming our sovereign right to be here and to claim the land. It's us claiming our sovereign right to claim what is home for us as humans, as a human soul. I know I was listening to Pam Gregory's offerings for 2025, and she was talking about we're going to have a lot of conversation this year about what it means to be a human. What is the divine soul of the human actually made of? Yeah, it's also a number 9. Emma is saying it's a number 9. Where did it go?
It was up on this.
Oh, you had it up. Sorry. Good for you.
Sitting up there waiting for you to what you're saying.
Right.
Okay, so just in electrical girl, there wasn't a first question to post. We were just looking at the full moon energies, this Cancer full moon, pertaining to how this kind of starts us into the year and what the focus of that is, which is a lot to do with our home and our homecoming, and how that might kind of kickstart us into 2025. So we were just having a look at that out of curiosity before anybody had questions coming in. And now it looks like we definitely have questions joining us. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. It's always such a pleasure to tune in with all of you and your questions and your guides.
Good morning, Kim from Australia. Colleen. Mary Jones, hi. Looking forward to meeting up with you next week. The recipient of our little giveaway on the eve there. Lovely. And we have lots of questions coming in.
Beautiful.
So we'll just get started.
How exciting.
Where we are. And Angela is just wanting to bring forward this nasty fake fog.
Yeah.
Birds flying into her window. And so I don't know, Angela, if you want to say where you are, but yeah, we are looking at obviously the fires in LA is going to be a big topic. It's going to be a big topic ongoing, probably for several weeks and months. And you know, I mentioned it a little bit over on Beyond Mystic that I was feeling the complexity of all the different parts, right? So we've heard about how, on the one hand, you know, this is a design by the cabal to institute the need for more and more control in urban areas and, you know, development of smart cities and getting people from rural communities forced to living in the cities and so on. So we have that whole narrative that goes along with, you know, that these are direct energy weapon ignited events. And so there's that whole side of things. There's also the side of things that there's something positive going on here. And this was about draining the swamp. There's just so much mixed in, and how do we discern? And my sense is always that we're looking at a combination of factors. And so, you know, at some point we get to a point where it's like, well, whatever that ratio is, what are we going to do? What are we going to do about it? So this fog, the fake fog, I feel like ties in very strongly with this, because we can assume it's pretty obvious for most of us that have eyes to see and noses to smell that there is some sort of artificial chemicals being put into our atmosphere. It's been going on for a really long time with the chemtrail sprays and all that kind of stuff. So we know that there is stuff that is not natural that is being projected, and what variety of different reasons that could have. What do we need to know about it, and how much longer is it going to be pushing us to face some of these things? I mean, that's the other side of the story, right? Is that this is all designed to get us to look at things that we almost need to be like bonked on the head. And when I say we, I'm not talking about most of you here, but I'm talking about the collective humanity. Go ahead, Crystal, and do you want me to cut the duck?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's have you cut that.
Love it. Thank you. That was the one I was going to choose too.
Oh, I love it. Well, we do that quite often. Right on the money there. Okay, let's have a look. Here we go again with our sovereign card and the sun.
Okay, so
I'll just go through my house has a lot of windows. We usually have birds hitting the window when the berries on the vines ferment. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. We had that also that particular issue of the birds hitting the windows when the
Berries
when
were
the berries
fermenting.
are fermenting,
Yeah.
Angela says. But we bringing up the fog is in people's radar, so we do want to be speaking to that as well. Let's give us a little bit more
Perfect.
space here. Alrighty, tidy. Let's see here.
Well, look at this, right? We've got this other really beautiful card again. So another 2 9s, another sun, that sovereign card shows up again. Wow.
Yeah, I really feel that's kind of what I suspected with the fires too. I was like, what is the wisdom in this? So why, although it feels like nefarious forces that are um, putting this into action, it's also like, well, why are we designing that way? And what are we asking for in it? And it's like, almost like the fog is pushing us, as mom said, into our own like finding our internal strength, our inner warriors, our inner light. And it's very much like, gosh, these are some beautiful power cards that are really stirring up anything that may be left in the recesses of what we're overlooking. Right?
Wow. Yeah.
The parts of our heart that we have overlooked or become sort of not complacent in, but distracted by. Like all of the our lives have become so consumed with consuming and consumed with the go 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 all the time, like this 9, again, another 9 here, 2 9s here, right? So it's like really that we're learning to develop our own systems. And sometimes when we spend things like darkness retreats or something like that, sometimes with the fog being upon us, we find this like inner light that comes forth. And I really feel like there is a new sort of, like, it goes from this heartbreak piece, and look at this little page of cups over here and the king of pentacles. I mean, something is coming. There is we're birthing new systems left, right, and center here. So the more that they do this crazy stuff to us, the more we're like, okay, fine. Let's build something different.
Yeah, this really lends itself, I feel like, to the version of the story, which is it's got to get so in our face that even the most, this is the classic, Janine's been saying this on Beyond Mystic for years now, right? Like that it's just got to get so obvious where people are asking questions. You notice about the fires in LA, there's a lot more people asking questions. And there's a lot more stories making it into more of the mainstream narrative around, what is all this fire retardant, and what were they spraying? What was in that fog that came in before the fires happened, right? So I think that, as people on the ground are being affected by the suffering is for real. But each time, we go through one of these big, the guides are calling them awakenings. These are awakenings. They're waking us up. And even us who are awake, it's waking us up to go, okay, so what does crisis response look like? What are we going to do to address this? Like, again, we're moving on. A lot of us in this community that are listening in are moving on to next steps. So we're looking at, okay, we already know tons of nefarious stuff going on. Some of it might be good for us. A lot of it is still the old. And I also get, this is the last push, right? 3 more weeks of the, like, technically when this happened, right? It was like one of the last raining down on us the last time to get all this toxic fog over our heads before everything's going to change after the 20th, right? So I feel like it's this critical moment where it's forcing all these narratives to converge, and what a way to start off the year.
Yep.
Right. So let's land in directives around solutions and how, of course we're going to be holding people accountable and like aiming the spotlight where it needs to go. That's what this feels like. The spotlight needs to go on this topic. But there's also, like, as Crystal was saying about consumerism and stuff, this is an opportunity for us to say, you know what, a lot of the people who lost their homes, you're hearing these narratives where they're like saying, actually, I realize how much of what I had doesn't even matter now. Right? So people's whole, like, I feel like humanity is at a point where they're ready to look at how they live, why they live the way they live, why they consume the way they do. Like, it's not about we all need to live humbly in some little hovel somewhere. It's actually about what could we do with all our energy, all our inspiration and motivation, if instead of just consuming things, we created beautiful architecture, beautiful music, beautiful art, beautiful communities, beautiful gardens. What if instead of spending our days off at, Costco and the big box stores consuming stuff that's made probably in another part of the world in not very good working conditions, what if we were actually redesigning our lives? So this is a gift. I mean, it's a big long-winded rant, of course, about just something as simple as the fog, but you see, of course, Angela, that the fog touches in on weather modification, which touches in on the fires and so on. So, Susan says, even Swedish zombies are questioning the LA fires, right? Yeah. Okay, so
I've got
go
this
back.
under
Thanks,
control
sweetheart.
here, my dear. Okay.
So many questions coming in.
Beautiful.
Thanks for your questions.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Love it.
Okay.
So here's another one of Susan's amazing questions regarding Canada, the first human inhabitants, the descendants of the Ka energy spirit. Is that how it's got its name? Canada, land of spirit, where they white with red paint. Well, I love the let's just call it the riddle that goes along with when we start looking at the origin of our names, the origin of our the history, the obscured, forgotten, manipulated histories of the past. And Susan, you always have such amazing questions regarding this. I think we're going to tag your question in a little bit with the identity of Canada and what are we going through right now as Canadians. Because even whether there's truth to your narrative, first human inhabitants, the descendants of the Ka, I love it. There's something, what I'm hearing you asking is that what significance does the role that Canada plays on the global stage? What do we represent? Do we represent an ancient version of humanity that is associated with Ka energy spirit? And if so, what is our role in how things are going to unfold on this planet going forward? That's where I'd like to take your question.
Let's pull 3 on it.
Sure.
I'm feeling 3.
Okay, I love it. And I'm getting
put them together.
First one.
Okay, I'm going this way.
Canada. Whoa. Okay. So yes, I would say there is definitely hidden history here. You see how this sword is like, there's the narrative, the consensus narrative above the ground, which is, this is, we're
the writing on the wall.
The writing on the wall, the 3 swords on the wall. We're a young country. There really has been uninhabited. this Arctic zone where it's just cold and ice and nobody there and all that. And so I think we're getting to some very interesting, deeper truths about our country, even connected to the gold rush is what I'm hearing, because I see this gold sword there. So I think there's something about, we're going to learn more about the gold rush and the north of Canada, and actually what the ancient civilization or the ancient history of this country is. How does that relate to where we are now and where we're going as a country? Wow.
You know how many times I keep hearing that there's, underwater portals? I just feel, I don't know. I saw this card and I was like, oh, it's the portals. There's like, I do feel like Canada is quite the home to some very interesting portals of like timelines that where it's quite possible, like mom said, that it is a yes and answer to your question, Susan. And I feel like there was probably people that came and went, and where Canada got discovered through different peoples that potentially came and went through portals. I mean, who knows? I'm just throwing it out there.
Okay. So yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. And there's something so it's both the innocence and the naivety, right? So Canada is often described as like the naive, apologetic, super polite culture, which to me is a lot about the inner child, right? It's that narrative of there's something very close to the heart with Canada. In terms of energetic. And then when you look at this card, the world, so, a location where people come from all corners to sit in a circle. So there may have been, as Crystal's describing, a portal, an energy field of gathering, of sacred portal or point, where people come from, like they're saying, the guys are saying the real United Nations.
Yeah.
And there's an interesting book that I have in my library, but I think it's out in my other library right at the moment. It's John Ralston's Saul, Canada as a Métis Nation. And it basically talks a lot about, I would call it the karmic history of Canada. He calls it more like, the social history, social cultural history of Canada. But just like the US and all the different countries, the nations of the world, Canada has a very interesting, kind of evolutionary origin story of different types of discovery, as Crystal's mentioning. And one of the things that is part of that narrative is there's a lot about blending. We've called it the melting pot, the country that's the melting pot, but whatever your opinion of that is, there's something deeper going on here, which is a little bit global ambassador type to me. And it's interesting, we go from the neutral country to the activated country. And I find this was something I felt during the trucker convoy, because I was kind of like, Canada is like this sleeping bear or something that's hibernating all the time up here in the cold. But if you poke that bear too much and wake it up, it is fierce. Like, there's something about the nature of the lifestyle even here. And I'm talking about more of the rural Canada, not the compact urban centers that are pretty close to the US border, most of them, right? So anyway, there we go, a rant. Land bridge with Russia, and talking about, Susan says she got goosebumps all over. It could have to do with the Greenland issue happening right now. This is a beautiful topic I think we're going to be discussing more in the weeks and months ahead, because again, as suddenly this northern land of kind of nothing, emptiness, it becomes a pretty powerful, I want to say, not commodity, but bargaining chip on the global system, right?
Beautiful. Well, that leads into our next question.
Okay.
Trump's plan
To have
has
55 stars.
not 51.
Uh-huh.
We have new countries joining us: Greenland, Canada, Mexico, or Panama, Australia, New Zealand.
Mhm. Okay.
All the things. I'm going to bring in the big guns here to shuffle.
The big guns.
The big mama guns.
Okay, so what do we need to know about the 55 stars? So 4 new countries, and which ones of the ones that you mentioned? You know what? Why don't we pull
on each of them.
each one? So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We got 6. Which one of those 6 are potentially one of the 4 that are being proposed or potentially could be joining? So maybe 3 piles, and then we'll do 6 cards across the board in the order that it was asked. Yeah, that's what I got too. Yeah.
All right, here we go. Greenland.
Okay, so that's been already set in motion. Definitely.
Quite possibly.
Yeah.
We were talking about that.
Although it's just a little night card. So we'll see.
Just a possibility. Woohoo. Canada.
Whoa. Right. Suddenly.
Okay. Oh, Mexico.
That looks like a yes.
Mm-hmm.
Panama. This feels
trade
agreements, very economically beneficial across the board for Panama to be part.
Okay. And we're going to come into Australia.
Oh, that's a yes. That's the yes card.
Okay. And then New Zealand.
So not so much New Zealand. So it's funny, if you look at these, New Zealand and Greenland are looking more sideline, like maybe contemplated, but Greenland feels like it's going to be, it's more tentative somehow. It's slow. It's a slower developing thing. And I'm wondering if that has something to do with negotiations with Russia, but Greenland looks like less obvious. Canada looks like something could happen very quickly with Canada. Mexico is a bit of a foregone conclusion. It's very bright and a very good possibility. And then Panama, as I said, economic trade agreements looks very positive. And then Australia, it's just like a new idea. Not really sure what that's about. That feels like it would be a longer question to look into. But as it stands right now, we are looking as though Canada, Mexico, Panama, and Australia are the 4.
Yeah. Which to me makes sense, kind of. We're definitely those sort of more focus places that very interesting. Cool. Good question.
Awesome. Okay, now we're going across the pond to the UK, and Keir Starmer and the UK government, will they fall or be exposed in the near future? So thank you, Taro by Lupo, for keeping us global here and asking some questions about our lovely friends and neighbors. And fall or be exposed. That's an interesting way of describing it. It's almost like just the order of that. It's interesting. Like when I think about our Trudeau government here in Canada, for example, it feels like the exposure came first and then the fall came second. So we'll just have a look at exposure. Maybe we'll do two piles.
Yeah,
one
that's
is
what I was thinking.
to expose and one is
In the
to
UK
fall.
government.
Yeah. Okay, we'll just do 3 piles. Okay.
Go for it.
I don't know. You do.
I don't know. That's not true. Okay. 2 piles. So fall.
Okay, so I have to say, pride comes before a fall. Look at this. Like we're so great. We can afford to just, and I feel like that happened with the Trudeau government as well. It was sort of like, we're untouchable. We could say anything. We can get away with anything. There's the hubris here, right? This is like the hubris of like being so above it all. And
feel
assuming.
like and getting caught in their own web, right? And then let's look at the
fall.
Be exposed. This was fall, this was exposure.
Oh, okay.
Right? Fall first, exposed.
Okay, yeah.
After.
Okay, so the exposure comes slowly. And I feel like a lot of that is because whistleblowers are very hesitant. There's a very, very like, it's interesting. It's almost like the most naive people are the one that come forward as whistleblowers. And so it feels like really important to back them up. That's what I'm hearing. So for the awake community in the UK, if the whistleblowers come forward and they're like seemingly, kind of naive, it feels really important to like support them. That's what I'm hearing, to really stand behind them. And, instead of waiting for the big fall, it's almost like I'm getting, they are doing a good job of exposing themselves because they think they're untouchable. So that's their greatest hubris, is their biggest, it's their biggest flaw. And like Crystal said, eventually they will get kind of tangled in their own web. But the fall, so the exposure is, it's almost like they are linked. They're linked. But I think the exposure will come first. And what's important is to sort of say they're going to fall for sure at some point, because they will get tangled in their own web. But if you really want people to wake up, it's going to be very important to support the whistleblowers that come forward, and to not just leave them dangling. Sort of like, there's almost a little bit of a feeling I'm getting with this. I don't know if you can verify this, Tarot by Lupo, but I almost get a bit of a feeling that there's in the psyche in the UK, there's like, oh, I don't know, like they're putting their neck on the line and we'll see what happens. We'll wait and see if they get dragged off to the Tower of London kind of thing, right? It's like there's a feeling of almost the naivety of people that break the code, break the silence. It's not trusted. People are very, like, they want to see a huge wave of breakthrough before they're going to cast their vote alongside that. And I feel like it's important not to do that, not let these first wave people that are coming out stand alone. It feels important to stand with them. What do you feel of what you see with these cards, Crystal?
Yeah, I feel like it's important for everyone to be putting their best foot forward. For those that have an awareness and have information, really be careful not to create more destruction and division. Really lead with like lead with curiosity, lead with openness to possibilities
Mhm.
that are just like, like rather than kind of battling back and forth with, oh yeah, well, you say that, but I'm actually hearing this or whatever. It's just like, let's include all of it, and give it good high frequency energy, because they actually are like, they the powers that be there, the government, have actually kind of mastered really channeling a lot of energy and like getting sort of creative with their tactics. And so like you kind of, the people coming in, instead of battling them and being kind of against them, coming to each other and developing solutions together,
Mhm.
and allowing them to kind of like catch themselves in their own web,
Yeah.
as I said, and shoot themselves in the foot. Because I feel like there's going to be, and I also feel like there's like old systems there that are going to be exiting themselves out, or old people even that are going to be kind of like just leaving the higher levels of
Mm.
illness or whatever is going to be, that they're going to be exiting, and there's going to be spaces for like new blood to come in and new curiosity to be born. So
Yeah,
watch
this
that.
idea of like scramble, so like the truther movement being scrambled and
Mhm.
turned against each other.
Mhm.
What I'm hearing is for all of us to take a step back, take a big breath, and say, you know what? It doesn't matter if you've got all the intel perfect, if you are, if you are right on or not right on. Every one of us that are in this truther movement, we are taking a risk
Mhm.
to speak out.
Mhm.
And you know what? Like, we can sort out the details later. Let's not turn against our kind. Let's not turn on each other and say, well, I don't know, like, you said this, but you were wrong about that, and so da, da, da. But meanwhile, the person's whole life, their career, their whatever is on the line. Like, it's almost like I'm being shown we can work out some of those. There's a little bit of the feeling of the first ones take the hit and we see what happens to them before we're all going to kind of come out of our hidey holes and say, okay, I'll speak up too. And it's okay to not agree with each other on everything. The point is, there's a degree of courage, and yeah, maybe it's naivety, but the fearlessness of stepping forward and the vulnerability of that, it feels like this is a
Mhm.
time for us to really honor that. Interesting. That kind of connects
Mhm.
in with where we are.
Next
Yeah.
question.
So this question is interesting. And Valerie, I just want to see where you are. Oh, non-UK residents having to ask permission to travel from the end of January. Okay, so sounds like you're in the UK as well. So again, as we were saying, this what's going on there, and oh, I just keep hearing the UK is going to be a long, slow untangling,
Mhm.
because it's one of the top cabal countries of the world, really.
Yeah.
And so it's just so woven in, and yet it's also one of the freshest, inspired, like, I am so drawn to the UK. Have been for the past few years, really imagining even making a home there in the next few years. Several of my awake friends are thinking about moving there or having a second home there or something. So please do not feel like it's either or. I feel like it's going to be a long road to untangle all of that structure and control, but it's a beautiful road in a lot of ways. Okay, so this is about travel in and out of the UK, and I think we can just kind of tag this on with questions around travel in general right now.
Yes.
You want to go ahead, love?
Yeah.
There it is, and I will keep looking at this,
Yep.
and then I'll go to this one right there.
There's more questions before that.
Okay.
Way more. I just wanted to, I'm just trying to find the questions and also stay up on if people are talking to us while we're talking.
Right.
Yes.
Mhm.
Only do so much, the two of us.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, that's this one.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Travel. Well, that's a travel card if I ever saw one.
Okay. Okay.
I'm giggling because this looks pretty darn good down here.
Yeah. I mean, okay. I almost get that there may be smaller flight companies that might be like coming out and working together to create um, like new travel, like outside of the big companies that have been there. It's almost like there's like big companies and then there's the smaller companies and they're kind of going to split off almost, and they're going through like a like death to the old system kind of period or kind of phasing that out, and they're kind of feeling like stuck right now, but actually this is going to be like a change for the people. This is going to feel really like the new ones coming in are going to be really working together to make travel be something that's affordable again, where you could maybe even pay in something like crypto, like where there's like really the possibility of new sort of smaller companies that are going to be coming in and allowing for more cross countries travel. Thoughts?
Love it. I love everything you said, Crystal. It's right on, and that was something I didn't get all that. So thank you for that. And all what I was getting, interestingly, is also the human hobbit like character nature, right? It's like, and I feel as though, you know, with the pandemic and all that was like kind of, you know, overdone in that way. It's a bit like the cry wolf thing, right? So we've got a lot of humanity at this point is much less likely to just get intimidated by scary narratives, right? It's like, well, you know, you're going to have to do this and you're going to have to, and people are kind of like, yeah, well, I'll just find another, as you said, like I'll find another airline, or, oh, well, you know, well, maybe I'm just going to try anyway. Like, I think the assumption is if they psych us out, right? They're trying to psych us out. If they do that, it's going to work and we're all going to stay home. And I think people are just going to not listen. They're just going to keep traveling and they're just going to keep buying tickets and going. And it's sort of like, yawn, right? A little bit like, okay, how many times are you trying to scare us about everything on the planet right now? Everything is this big, like, end of the world crisis, and everything is bad and everything is scary and everything is dangerous. And people are just getting a little bit like, okay, on with reality. Like, we're going anyway, and whatever, we'll get travel insurance, and who, you know, there's just this energy of we're not going to be easily bamboozled into giving up all our rights, is what I'm getting.
Absolutely. And the other thing is like different forms of travel too. Boats. Like, I mean, what did we do before planes? We took ships places. Like, there's definitely a couple of like really crossing the waters kind of cards here too. So it's just like, you know, if you're feeling like they're edging you out in this type of travel, there must be other ways, right? So like, let's start exploring and possibly supporting that as well.
Beautiful, beautiful. And something I was getting probably about 5 years ago, even before March of 2020, you know, I was getting that travel, as we grow and evolve and become less just about entertain me and consumers, right? Entertainment consumers, that we actually get more really curious and interactively involved. When we travel, we want experience and connectivity. We want to actually form relationships, form like alliances with people in different parts of the world, get involved in doing cool things like projects, causes. Like, we're not just traveling as like, kind of I'm hearing like, the Disneyland phenomenon, like entertain me. I just want to be, I mean, obviously, all sorts of travel are so restorative. A change is as good as a rest. Some of these places are so naturally healing with the elements, the sunshine, the nature, the water. So yeah, it feels to me.
Oh,
I guess I said something really big. But I'm getting that we're going to be traveling with more intention and purpose. And that is also like, if you have a reason, it's going to be no problem traveling. So think about it that way. Think about, well, I'm not just traveling for no reason anyway. I want to go take this course, or I want to have this experience, or maybe develop some kind of business relationship in another country. Trade. Resource trading. Circulation of something. So all that. We're getting creative. I love it. Here we go. That leads us to da-da-la. Oh, right. So I think with your permission, electrical girl, let's just ask this about globally. Everything. Looking at our city's website reveals that there's been an agenda for several years, and looks like construction's begun. While Crystal's shuffling on this, I'm going to just relay a story, a personal story, where I guess it was probably about 2018, and I was watching a documentary, and there was stuff about smart cities in China. And I was like, I got so upset, and I was talking to my younger daughter, who's such a like worldly visionary, like intergalactic seer of the biggest picture of all. And she was like, oh, don't worry, Mom. Like, there's people that came to Earth at this time to have this experience, but it won't be everybody. And we certainly won't be those people. And it's okay. You don't need to like override their option to choose to have that experience. And it took me a while. I sat with that. I wasn't very happy about it, I have to say. I was pretty mad, and I was like, no, I don't, not on my watch. This is not okay. No humans should live like this. I don't like where this is going, and so on and so on. Well, here I am, 6, 7 years later, or 8 years later, and I'm like, okay, I get it. I get a little bit of that. It's again, we have to grow. And for some of us, growth is going to need to be a little bit more intense and maybe painful. And for others, maybe we've had a lot of those intense, painful lifetimes, and we're here now to take the initiative to lead the charge in a new direction. So that's my preempt. How about you cut the deck on that? Awesome. There we go. And let's see. 15-minute cities. Okay. Ooh. Just a little bit like what I was just saying. A little bit like what I was. Jeez Louise. Wow. Okay, this is kind of startling. Yeah. Well, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. We're goshing because there's a lot of really, really good cards. Really good cards. Oh, I mean, I definitely feel like it is in alignment with what you're saying, in that it is like, wow, really like inviting us to work with each other, really inviting us to come back to the land. Like there will be, I feel like we could really actually have symbiotic
relationships with the people that live in these cities, and then the ones that are more comfortable outside of the cities, and where we're actually left maybe more at peace than we've been trying to kind of coexist in each other's sort of ways or like realities. It's like there's something about like we're really being invited to work together and like either with each other or not between us and the cities, but it could be that too, right? It's like there's definitely like this, even the Six of Swords being down here, like coming out of like coming into beautiful forms of communication, developing new agreements. I mean,
yeah. Okay. So let's
go, Mama.
start with the idea that in the past, something is being proposed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so we've got always, I talk about the layers, right? So we've got, the cabal's agenda, which you follow it to the end of its natural conclusion, and it's not very natural. It's like, I mean, what the agenda goes towards is total annihilation of all carbon life forms, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, whoever is designing that probably is some kind of AI freak thing or something, right? It's like it doesn't make any sense on any level. Right? It's just kind of bonkers. So but that extreme version of reality being put into the mix right now forces us to look at things. So the answer being like, yeah, these plans have been in place. Yes, this is, I think there was an intention by some well-meaning beings that saw the crisis we were heading towards with mass consumerism. It's like, oh no, we created a Frankenstein monster after World War II. We had the Green Revolution. We had, or that was in the 40s and 30s. We had globalization and, mass consumerism internationally, and just like totally went off the deep end and basically started just annihilating nature and species by the billions. And I think that there was a design suggested or brought to the table with, on a more positive, let's call it a white hat version of like, we need to do something. We need to put something in place, because if people aren't willing to give that up, if they're not willing to return to nature and come back into more of a harmonized version of themselves, we need to have a place for those people that don't want to change.
Mm-hmm.
And like where they're no longer, as Crystal said, where they're no longer hurting the planet and destroying each other and themselves and so on. Or maybe they are, but not in a limited sort of way. I guess you could almost say it's a bit like an institution for people who are just so small in their thinking and their experience of reality. They just want to be looked after. They've been grown dependent, and they don't ever want to stand on their own 2 feet again. They're weak. So it doesn't mean that that's right. I don't think it's right. I keep feeling like, gosh, can we learn how to inspire people to change and give them, teach them and educate them to be more inspired, to change their lifestyle? Apparently some people believed that would never happen with a certain percentage of the population. So this is put it out there in our community. Think about this, folks. What do you feel? Do you feel there's a percentage, maybe 20% of our population, that just no matter what they're faced with, they don't want to give up the dependency that they've learned? They want instant gratification. They want to be their food brought to them. They want their, it's very, very sad, but it is also the end of that train, right? It comes to its end destination. It doesn't go any further. And for so many of the rest of us, the incentive is placed in front of us. Okay, we're going to want to and need to do this differently. So I think your question, Electrical Girl, of, are they coming after us? I think it's more about like, that plan is there for the ones that just can't change. And if we keep looking at it and going, oh, they're going to catch us, they're going to put us in these cities, it's like the guys are saying, them and whose army? Like, how many armies are you going to have to put? So many people would be like, heck no, we're going back onto the farmland. We're going to, people are just going and living in tiny homes and sharing property. And like, I mean, there's such a flourish of people returning to the land, growing their own food. Like, I don't think those people are going to give up and go into a smart city. No way, no how.
I have so much to say. Oh my gosh. Okay. First of all, no, second of all, this trio right here, the Empress and the Nine of Pentacles and the Star, makes me feel like a lot of these 15-minute cities have been created by a very patriarchal, conceptualized ruling. And that what's going to happen is that we're going to have a lot more matriarchal power that's going to, not power, but influence that's going to be stepping forward. Leadership that's going to be coming through. And I keep seeing the first thing that I was seeing here, and I just like have never even noticed it before. You probably won't be able to see it, but there's a little snail down here. And it just kept speaking to me, and it just keeps saying, do not underestimate the power of the little beings on this planet. Like, do not underestimate like that they have so much true force and power around what happens to them and their homes. And the little snail that has his whole life on his back, like, we're learning to live like that. We're learning that home is where our entire being is, not like the, these boxes that they kind of are saying that they're going to put us in. So we're learning how to create home everywhere that we go, and through connections and coming at it from a much more feminine way than we have before. And so I do think that there's going to be a lot more matriarchal leadership that's going to be coming through.
Yes. And, this idea, well, we think about the little snail and the meek shall inherit the earth. And this idea that, there would ever be the enough of the inertia to cause us all to lose belief in our ability to rebuild, to heal, to clear, to grow, to reunite, that is a very sticky and dangerous, that's the dark force right there. That's the dark force. It's the trick. And I think about the movie The Hunger Games, and I'll tell you, I have never watched that movie. And the reason, and there are movies that when they come out and I see what they're about, and I just maybe watch the trailer and I'm like, nope, I'm not even going to give it my attention. Not because I'm afraid of it, because I'm absolutely disgusted with it. I think it's just so unnecessary that we even entertain that extreme of a version of sickness and annihilation of human dignity. I'm not interested in that version of reality, and I'm not even going to watch it or think about it or talk about it or care about it. It's not happening in my reality. And so this is my invitation to you, is to notice where you're caught in, oh, but they've shown us what they're going to do. With whose army are they going to do it? It's like, okay, yeah, they can get us all going around in circles and disoriented and cut off all these things and this and that. And human ingenuity just pops us out in every direction. Like, we are not that easy to control. If you look at all of the times in history where extreme, dangerous, controlling religions and politics and military industrial complex have tried to take the world over again and again and again, and we are still here. because human ingenuity and the dignity of the human soul and spirit, the naturalness of it to return to what is harmonic, to return to the mother. We're back to the beginning of today's live. Return home.
Mhm.
And the other craziness is like trying to psych us out in believing that we can't ever do this. It's never going to be safe to return home. We are home.
Mhm.
We are home. And so if it's not safe to celebrate that and to work from that place, we've been tricked. So again, it's a moment for all of you to stop and reanalyze what you're giving. You know, what do they say? Which dog or which wolf are you feeding? What are you
Yeah.
giving your attention to? Now, I'm not saying, Electrical Girl, let me tell you, like I said, when I first heard about this phenomena, I was totally devastated and terrified. So that is not an inappropriate concern or response. And yes, we absolutely have to keep pressure on disclosing this stuff and
Oh,
making sure
yeah.
that we stop it from happening, stop it in its tracks.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
And also don't give the thought that they're just going to be able to take us over. Don't give it energy, because it really just is so far beyond that now.
Beautiful.
There we go.
Beautiful. And let's not forget about the elemental and nature beings ever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, this has been pretty incredible.
Always.
Yeah. And look at this. Susan just made a comment about, oh, Angela says, I've never seen any of the Hunger Games movies as well.
Either. Mhm.
And Susan just made a comment.
80% are going to remain followers and will turn to wherever the wind blows. So we just need to be 20% truly acting and leading the new path forward.
And it may be, Susan, that very soon that number is the other way around.
Yeah, honestly. I mean, it's just so wild. To me, the more that I converse with people that I never thought would start to be thinking and acting in the ways that I'm just like, "Oh, you think like that too?" Like, it's just, I feel like we are going to see these numbers shift in a big way.
Mhm.
Yeah, in a big way, particularly when we're leading by example coming from such a high frequency place. And that attracts. It
Mhm.
just does.
Yeah, and as we've been saying for a while, and this year is going to be all about, shedding the old skins with the year of the snake coming up here at the end of this
Mhm.
month. And it's also going to be about laying tracks in a new direction, laying stepping stones, marker stones. Where are we headed? And how can we start building these new platforms, these new paradigms underneath the old one that's crumbling, so that we have something to stand on as it crumbles. So that's what we're going to be putting out lots of on this channel in the year ahead.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's a real pleasure, as always, to share with you, tuning in with all of our collective guides to receive insights on behalf of the greater good of all. Blessings to
Blessings,
everybody.
everyone.
We'll see you here
See
next
you next
week.
week.
Bye for now.
Blessings.